Hey guys, Matt here. Welcome back to this week's portfolio update. I like to show my portfolio once a week or somewhere around that just to separate myself from other stock YouTubers out there and that I show my receipts. And also, in this video, I'm going to talk about AT&T's upcoming earnings. They have earnings coming out on the 21st. I'm going to go over what I want to see. So let's get started. Now, let's get the portfolio update out of the way because I don't have a whole lot to say. There's not much change from last week. Things are a little worse as treasury yields, and inflation are still a thing, and they're not getting any better anytime soon. Jivo's a little bit worse. FedEx is a little bit worse. Palantir is a little bit worse. AT&T, which we'll be talking about in this video, is a little worse. Like, everything's worse than last week, except for Bank of America. They had earnings this morning. I haven't digested everything, but they were pretty strong earnings. I mean, I can't complain about that. But Bank of America is the only real gem amongst everything else. Everything else is just a bloody mess. As far as the recent moves I made, today I bought some Palantir and I bought some Walgreens. And those are the only moves I'm planning on making this week unless AT&T gives me a reason to. At the end of this video, I'll talk about my investment plans for AT&T. So, yeah, AT&T. They have earnings coming out later this week. I want to talk about the media coverage. I want to talk about estimates, what I think about them. And then I want to go over what I'm looking for personally. Now, the media coverage of AT&T, as of late, has been pretty positive. Now, I've said this in an earlier video about media coverage, and that, yeah, negative media coverage is not something I pay a whole lot of attention to, except for at face value. So I can't really differ from that from positive news coverage. I mean, news coverage as of right now, it will have no effect at all on how AT&T performs later this week. Not at all. But I do want to point out that so far, coverage of AT&T since the spinoff has been mostly positive. Now, as far as analyst estimates for AT&T, if we look on Yahoo Finance, we got an average estimated EPS of 59 cents and an average revenue estimate of 29.5 billion. Now I will talk about that in a second. But if we go to Nasdaq, we got them reported the consensus EPS at 78 cents. Hopefully, let me zoom in a little bit so you can see that. Yeah, 78 cents. And Seekit Alpha has them coming in at 69 cents. But revenue is still the same. Now, as far as the revenue drop-off, AT&T has been shedding different parts of its business for the past year or so. So, yeah, there is definitely going to be a revenue drop-off and an earnings drop-off compared to last year because it's not the same AT&T as the AT&T of last year. I think that's pretty common sense. Now, as far as my thoughts on earnings, because of that, I'm not paying as much attention to revenue as I normally would. The only thing I'm banking on is I hope they meet this, and I'm hoping they at least meet that. If they can, come in around the average estimate as far as revenue, and they can come close to the EPS estimate, I'm fine. They don't have to beat it by a wide margin. I mean, now in the upcoming quarters, yeah, but this, no. As of this one right here, no. I have different things I'm looking at. Now, one thing I do want to see out of this upcoming earnings, like I said, EPS, revenue, just meet it. That's all I care about. You don't have to go crazy. I am looking forward to the tone at which the managers conduct the remarks and the Q&A. Now, the Word and Media spinoff that recently concluded, that's not going to hit the books until next earnings report. So we're not going to see too much about the revenue hit or the EPS hit or anything like that until next earnings. But they are almost certainly going to talk about that in the guidance and the opening remarks. I want to see how the managers, the CEO and the top managers, they conduct themselves during the remarks. I want to see how well they answer the Q&A because there will probably be some tough Q&A questions coming up. Like the Word and Media spinoff, I mean, AT&T is in a potentially really good position because they finally shut off most of their what is called bad acquisitions. I don't think Warner Media was a bad acquisition. I don't think AT&T should have sold it, but I mean, I'm not the CEO. Maybe they know more than I do, but I do see why they did it. And now that AT&T is strictly a communications business with a side business in Latin America, like that's all they are now. So they should be in a really good position from here on out to really start performing. I want to see their plan to tackle their debt because their debt is a huge problem. I want to see what they're going to do as far as growing their 5G count, and I want to see a whole bunch more stuff. We'll talk about that right now. Now, we know that, now this is a PDF of their different metrics as far as AT&T over the past several quarters. And we know AT&T has spun off most of these, but there are some numbers that should not have changed, such as their entire communications. Now, hopefully you can see this. If you're on a mobile, you may need to squint, but yeah, the communications, this should be all they have left. So this should not have been affected by the Warner Media spinoff. And so I am looking forward to seeing these numbers here go up, at least on a year-over-year basis, but hopefully on a quarter-by-quarter basis. But yeah, this communication stuff, yeah, this should be going up on an operating revenue standpoint. Now, some business metrics as far as their AT&T mobility subscribers and connections. Yeah, this is what we really should be looking at in this next earnings, because this should, like I said, this should not have been affected. This should not have been affected by the spinoff, and this is the business now. So these numbers here are what AT&T should be building on going forward. The total subscribers and connections. Yeah, we should see this continue to go up, both on a year-over-year basis and hopefully on a quarterly basis. I want to see churn remain down. This right here is really good, 0.85%. Hopefully that that remains to be as low. Like this right here, I want to see these numbers keep getting better and better. And now that AT&T has less overhead to deal with, and now less stuff getting in the way, especially in their guidance, I want to see, good numbers reporting, and I want to see better numbers in the guidance. And AT&T is boasting a lot, especially as it continues to expand its 5G infrastructure, which is finally online after, a few months of delays and all that fun stuff. It's finally online. I mean, the company aims to reach 70 million to 75 million by the end of 2022 and 200 million by 2023. Yeah, I want to see some good progress on that, and and it's already covering 220 or 255 million. So yeah, I expect to see some good progress in that, and some good progress in the outlook. And the last thing I want to see is their debt. I'm really looking forward to seeing how their debt has gone, preferably down. But given the cost with the AT&T Warner Media thing, I mean, it may not go down. We'll see what happens. But I think I mentioned this earlier, but I definitely want to hear their guidance as to how they're tackling their debt. The whole thing with the Warner Media spinoff is that part of that is going to go to paying this sucker down. So hopefully we see that happening, and hopefully we see their plan for making that happen. Now, to wrap things up, I did promise to tell you how I'm going to be investing in AT&T. Right now, AT&T is my biggest investment as far as percentage of my account invested. So I've already invested a lot in the AT&T, and if they have some really good numbers, I will invest more. But barring that, I really don't want to invest too much more money into AT&T, and that's just because it's 12% of my portfolio. I don't like having this much of my portfolio in one stock as it is, but I believe in the company. So I will probably continue making investments elsewhere. Like I said, I bought Palantir and Walgreens this week, and I will probably keep making investments elsewhere until this evens out a little more. But anyways, take care, have a great day, and eat your vegetables.